Okay, let's unpack this. Today's deep dive takes us somewhere maybe a little unexpected, TikTok.
Right.
But not for the usual viral dances or anything like that. We're digging into the strategy report for a fractional chief marketing officer, specifically one working with law firms.
Which is fascinating, isn't it? You've got this very traditional, often, let's say, conservative legal world
Yeah,
meeting the dynamic, sometimes pretty chaotic vibe of TikTok.
exactly. And what's really interesting here is seeing how these professional services, B2B essentially, are trying to make it work on a platform really built for, consumer virality.
And this report gives us a real peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Is that leap actually paying off? And maybe more importantly, how are they doing it?
Right. And this isn't just guesswork. Our source is a detailed performance and optimization report. It's based on analyzing one specific account at Fractional Lawyers. They focus entirely on legal marketing, business development.
And it's packed with data, actual observations from over 2 years of posting?
Yeah, quite a bit of history there. So our mission in this deep dive is really to sift through all that data and pull out the core lessons you can actually use.
Whether you're, say, a lawyer thinking about building your brand online, or a marketer navigating these professional platforms.
Or maybe you're just curious about how these niche areas find their voice online.
Right. We want to understand what are the ingredients, what makes professional content actually, work on a platform like TikTok.
And the report had some genuinely surprising findings. We'll get into stuff like which topics really cut through the noise, how just mentioning other brands or even your own business can actually affect your reach.
Oh, that's interesting.
And a really critical piece, the exact best time to hit post. It seems timing is everything.
Well, yeah, let's jump in.
Let's do it.
So, looking at the content first, the report shows the account's focus is super clear, very consistent. It's all about giving actionable advice, valuable industry insights, specifically for legal professionals.
Right, it's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's really laser focused on those pain points, the interests of lawyers and law firms. Legal marketing, business development, professional growth, those are the recurring themes.
And the report pulls out specific examples, like there was a post, I think March 2025, talking about succession planning.
Okay.
Framing it as, and this is a quote, the biggest issue facing law firms, large and small. That directly hits a nerve, a fundamental challenge for the audience.
Or remember that one from April 2024, emphasizing active listening, described as the most critical thing you can do. Super practical stuff lawyers can actually use day to day.
Yeah, grounded advice. And they back this up with their hashtags too, right? Hashtag legal marketing, hashtag law firm, hashtag business development, hashtag lawyers, like signposting.
Tells the algorithm who it's for, helps people find it. Makes sense.
So it's pretty clear why this kind of content resonates. If you're a busy lawyer, maybe scrolling quickly during a break, and you see a video offering real practical help with a problem you're actually facing, you're going to stop and watch. It speaks directly to their professional needs.
So that's a key takeaway right there for you, the listener. You've got to identify those critical pain points, those growth areas for your audience, and speak directly to them. These topics clearly work for lawyers on TikTok.
Okay, so that's the what. What about the when and how often? The report dug into posting consistency, or maybe the lack of it.
Yeah, this was interesting. They analyzed 45 posts over, like you said, more than 2 years, January 2023 to March 2025.
Which averages out to, roughly 2 posts a month?
Just 2 posts a month on TikTok. That feels, really infrequent for a platform that seems to run on volume, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. And the report stresses it wasn't even a consistent 2 per month. There were gaps, sometimes a whole month with no posts at all.
Oof. What does that kind of stop-start posting do on TikTok, given how much the algorithm supposedly values frequency?
Yeah, it's basically a huge missed opportunity. The TikTok algorithm really rewards that consistent posting because it helps build momentum with your audience. Ideally, the recommendation is often 3 to 5 times a week.
A week, not twice a month.
Right. Those long gaps mean you're practically starting over each time in terms of algorithmic favor.
Like trying to get a flywheel going, but you keep letting it stop?
Exactly that. The report did mention one little burst of activity, though, that Back to Social series in September 2024.
Okay.
There were 4 posts that month. So a bit more thematic consistency, probably gave them a temporary little boost, but it wasn't sustained.
Gotcha. So the big lesson here for you listening, consistency isn't just like a nice to have on TikTok. It seems fundamental to making the platform work for you. If you commit, you got to show up regularly.
Definitely. Now, While the content is mostly valuable advice, the report also looked at how the account owner weaves in their actual business.
Right. This is key for anyone trying to promote a service. The business is fractional law firm CMO services. And the report listed the offerings. Fractional CMO, business development coaching, social media strategy, LinkedIn training was specifically mentioned.
Workshops, content creation support,
Right.
a whole suite.
Yeah, and the report really highlighted how these aren't just, blunt sales pitches. They're integrated quite seamlessly into the helpful content. It avoids that constant buy my stuff feeling.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of just saying hire me, there's a post explaining the value. Something like a fractional CMO is perfect for firms that need a chief marketing officer but don't have the budget. See? It's positioning the service as a solution within the advice.
Smart. Or showing, not just telling. Like that LinkedIn profile optimization guide from September 2024. That's useful content in itself, but it also demonstrates their expertise in social media selection.
Exactly. And even using storytelling. The report mentioned a day in the life post. Today, I'm meeting my business partner, EJ, and we are going to co-work together. It makes the service feel more human, builds trust, shows the work in action.
And it's not just about promoting their own services. The report found they strategically leverage external brands, authoritative sources, which is a really smart way to build credibility.
Oh, this part was fascinating, like citing the Wall Street Journal. The report highlights a December 2024 post discussing a WSJ piece about people maybe using Google less for search and connecting it back to their own work. We've been telling our law firm clients this, especially when we do LinkedIn trainings. People are not going to Google anymore.
See, that immediately does a couple of things. Positions them as current, reading major publications, and implies their insights align with top-tier thinking. It's borrowing authority, basically.
Yeah. And they did it with Bloomberg Law, too, back in May 2023, talking about law firm social media policies. Another day, another article, this one from Bloomberg Law.
And above the law, Major Lindsay in Africa's Millennial Survey, mentioning those in early 2023.
Even bringing in non-legal specific experts like Angela Duckworth on Grit in March 2023, encouraging people to check out her TED Talk or book.
It's a brilliant tactic. It tells your audience, hey, I'm not just making this up. I'm informed by major news, industry research, respected thinkers. It really elevates the account beyond just opinion.
Makes them a resource.
Absolutely. So for you, the listener, the insight here is pretty powerful. Your content doesn't have to be all about you or your service directly. Integrate promotion smoothly into valuable advice and leverage credible external sources. It builds authority and demonstrates value without that hard sell feeling.
Okay, let's really get into the numbers. Engagement. The report said the average like-to-view ratio was around 4.87%, but it also said that number swung wildly.
It really did, from less than 0.5% on some posts up to over 18% on others, a huge range. But what was really interesting was comparing the purely organic advice posts versus those that mentioned a brand. And that includes mentioning their own business.
Okay, and the finding there. Brand mentions actually did better. That seems counterintuitive.
Significantly better.
No.
Posts with brand mentions averaged 33% higher views and a 20% higher like rate compared to the purely organic ones.
Wow. Why do you think that is? You'd think mentioning brands, especially your own, might turn people off.
Well, the report suggests it's all about how it's done. Referencing an authority like the WSJ, showcasing a service seamlessly like in the LinkedIn tutorial, or maybe even just the signal that you're connected to other known entities. It seems to add weight or interest compared to more generic content.
Context matters.
Exactly. And the report highlighted some specific standouts that illustrate this.
Yeah, tell me about one that really worked.
Okay, that inspirational post from March 2023, the one about grit for female lawyers, referencing Angela Duckworth, it apparently just took off. High views, lots of shares, a strong virality score.
And why did that one connect so well?
The report points to the inspirational theme. It wasn't just information, it made people feel something. Motivation, maybe recognition. Plus, it tackled a relatable topic for a specific segment of the audience, and that reference to Duckworth added credibility. Emotional depth drove the sharing.
Makes sense. What about humor? That post, using the very mindful, very demure trend in September 2024. High like rate on that one, the report noted.
Ah, yes. That shows the power of playing within TikTok's own culture, right? Tapping into native trends using humor. It was short, relatable, funny in context. It showed personality and platform awareness, not just dry professional advice.
Okay. And the WSJ post about Google from December 2024. Good engagement there too, right? Likes, comments, shares.
Yeah, that one hit a sweet spot. It combined a highly respected source, WSJ, with a really timely, relevant topic that people are noticing, that shift away from Google search. It sparked discussion, got people commenting.
So authority and relevance. Got it. Okay. So what about the flip side, the post that didn't land so well?
Well, the report was pretty clear. Anything overtly promotional tanked. There was a direct pitch for the fractional CMO services in September 2024. Very low, rate. Almost zero.
A message received, hard selling does not work on TikTok.
Not even a little. Also, posts about really niche industry conferences, like back in May 2023, low engagement. The appeal was just too limited, even within the legal niche on the platform.
Too narrow.
Yeah, and just generic advice too, like a general branding post from January 2023. It didn't perform well either. Probably lacked specifics, didn't have that emotional hook or clear takeaway.
Okay, so summarizing the engagement lessons from the report, inspirational themes, tapping into trends, those beat niche or generic stuff.
Definitely. And video length, under 90 seconds. The report really emphasized that shorter videos significantly outperform longer ones. Brevity is crucial.
Keep it snappy.
Yes. And finally, the timing weekday mornings came out way ahead.
So for you listening, this is gold. It shows you don't need to be constantly selling or super formal. Content that inspires, makes people think, entertains, or leans on credible sources gets traction. And seriously, pay attention to video length.
And building on that idea of connection, the report looked specifically at the emotional tones being used. Primarily educational, inspirational, and occasionally humorous.
And the numbers backed up what we just discussed, right? Inspirational and humorous posts generally got higher average rates than the purely educational ones.
Which brings up a really important point. Why? Why does just educating often get less engagement than inspiring or amusing? The report suggests it boils down to relatability, that emotional pull. Inspirational content makes you feel motivated, maybe understood. Humorous content creates connection through shared experience, makes you laugh. They trigger a feeling.
Right, it's about making them feel something, not just learn something. That seems more powerful for driving likes and shares.
Precisely. Look, educational content is vital. It provides the core value. But it can feel dry sometimes, or maybe, like those underperforming posts showed, a bit too much like a lecture or even a subtle sales pitch if it's not delivered really engagingly.
How did this creator try to make it engaging?
The report noted storytelling techniques. Things like addressing the camera directly, using captions effectively, thinking about pacing, even the audio choices, all contributing to the overall tone and feeling.
So for you, the listener, it's not just the facts you're sharing, it's how you make people feel about them. Adding your personality, using stories, finding moments for inspiration or appropriate humor that can make your expertise much more memorable, more impactful. It turns info into connection.
Spot on. And speaking of impact, let's really zero in on timing. The report had some pretty definitive data here.
Yeah, this felt like one of the clearest takeaways. Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's the absolute sweet spot for peak engagement for this account.
And the report even broke it down further, highlighting Wednesdays and Tuesdays within that window as averaging the highest views and like rates.
Wow, that's specific. And the contrast was sharp, right? Evenings, say 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and weekends.
Dead zones, basically. Significantly lower engagement across the board for this account's content.
Which really suggests the audience, these legal professionals, they're most likely consuming this specific type of content during their workday.
Makes sense, right? Maybe scrolling during a lunch break, between meetings, quick downtime at the desk.
They're probably not looking for legal marketing tips on TikTok on a Saturday night.
Probably not. So the practical implication for you is huge. If your target audience is similar professionals active during the workday, your best posting time is smack bang in the middle of business hours. Forget evenings and weekends. It really challenges the typical TikTok advice for broader audiences.
That one insight about timing could honestly be a game changer for anyone doing B2B or professional content on the platform. Meet your audience when and where they actually are.
Definitely. The report also touched on collaborations and where there might be untapped potential for growth.
Okay. Did the account do any collaborating?
Some. There were shout-outs to other lawyer creators. Paige Sparks, Money Lawyer Erica were mentioned in a series around April and March 2024.
And how did those perform?
Modest engagement, according to the report,
Yeah.
compared to some of the other content types we discussed.
Why was that, do you think?
Well, the report suggests it's likely because they were mostly just mentions, shout outs. They weren't direct interactive collaborations like a duet video or a joint live stream.
So just name dropping isn't quite enough. You need to actually create something together for real impact.
Seems that way. And based on this, the report identified a few untapped opportunities, like moving beyond just shout-outs to leveraging new TikTok trends more quickly, not just waiting until they're huge like the Very Mindful one.
Staying ahead of the curve a bit more. Makes sense. What else?
Using more specific hashtags.
Yeah.
Exploring niche tags like hashtag law firm growth or maybe hashtag attorney tips more consistently to really hone in on specific audience segments.
Right, and getting more granular.
And maybe explicitly targeting underserved groups within the legal profession, perhaps solo lawyers or younger associates starting out.
Yeah, the report hinted at that, right, with the shout-outs to creators popular with younger audiences. But maybe creating content specifically for the challenges solos face, or what junior associates need to know.
Exactly. That tailoring could significantly boost relevance and reach within those sub-niches.
Okay, so for you listening, simple shout-outs are fine, maybe a starting point, but really exploring interactive collaborations or drilling down and tailoring content for specific professional subgroups in your field, that could be where the real growth potential lies.
And finally, the report wrapped up with a risk assessment, which is, especially crucial for professional brands on social media.
Always have to think about brand safety. And the news here was good.
Very good. The report found the account has a remarkably low-risk profile overall.
What kinds of things did they check for?
The usual suspects: profanity, controversial topics, drugs, alcohol mentions, violence, hate speech, negative brand mentions, adult content. The works.
And it was clean.
Consistently clean and professional in tone, yeah.
Were there any potential flags at all, even minor ones?
The report mentioned a couple of things that could be potentially sensitive, but stressed the risk was very low because of how they were handled. Like that subtle critique of Google in the December 2024 post, or the discussion around gender dynamics in the March 2023 post about grit for female lawyers.
But because they were framed professionally, part of a nuanced discussion, not just thrown out there to be inflammatory.
Exactly. They were handled with care within a professional context. And the implication is really important. Having that low-risk, brand-safe profile is vital for credibility with the professional audience. Plus, it makes the account much more attractive for potential partnerships or collaborations down the road.
That really underscores the value of maintaining that professional decorum online. So for you, the takeaway is that avoiding risky or overly controversial stuff isn't just about dodging trouble. It actively builds your long-term credibility and opens up opportunities, especially if you're in a field where reputation is everything.
Okay, so let's try and pull all these threads together. What are the key insights from this deep dive into a legal marketing CMO's TikTok strategy?
Well, the report paints a pretty clear picture, doesn't it? The recipe seems to be blend actionable, practical advice with moments of genuine inspiration or maybe even some appropriate humor.
Leverage trends when they fit, and definitely use authoritative external sources to build that credibility.
And keep it short. Videos under 90 seconds seem to be the magic number here. Short and impactful.
And that timing piece is huge. Forget evenings and weekends for this audience. Weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's your prime time.
Plus consistency. You gotta post regularly, ideally multiple times a week, not just twice a month. And maintain that professional, low-risk tone throughout.
So how do you, the listener, apply this? Maybe start by experimenting. Could you weave a bit more personality or an inspirational angle or even some light humor into your expert content?
Rethink your posting schedule completely. If you're targeting professionals during their workday, are you posting when they're actually scrolling?
Look for authentic ways to collaborate. Really create with others in your field. And could you tailor some content to specific niches within your audience?
And remember how to integrate your services, make it seamless, value-driven, avoid that hard sell at all costs.
Okay, and here's that final provocative thought for you to chew on. The report mentioned, citing the Wall Street Journal, that fundamental shift. People are not going to Google anymore for certain types of information. They're finding it elsewhere.
And this whole deep dive, looking at how a law firm CMO is finding success on TikTok, of all places, that feels like powerful proof of that shift, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If professional advice, business development insights, even finding service providers like a fractional CMO, if that's happening successfully on platforms like TikTok, what does that really tell you about the traditional ways you might have thought about building your professional brand or reaching your audience?
How does this whole analysis challenge those old assumptions about where expertise is found, where it's valued today?
Are you still marketing where your audience used to be?
Or are you meeting them where they actually are now, even if that place is, well, TikTok?
Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us as we unpack this really fascinating case study. We genuinely hope these insights help you refine your own strategy and connect with your audience in powerful, maybe unexpected new ways.
Apply what you've learned, experiment a little, and see how you can adapt to this constantly changing landscape.